Well. Welcome back to Wisdom with the Wise Counselor. I'm your host, the Wise Counselor, and I hope and pray. And you know what? I just know that everybody is doing well. Listen, I want to thank you in advance for tapping in with me for this episode. This episode was really just based on a happening that happened in my life earlier this week. And I thought, why not share a little bit of my personal narrative and turn that into a podcast that I'm sure everybody will be able to take some message home or let it impact your life in a positive way. So that's what this episode is going to be about. Overall, remember that this podcast is all about reclaiming your authority, building your resiliency, all of that, mental health and all of that. But I experienced really a magical moment this week. And it left me really deeply moved when I think about it, because not just as a professional, but just as being a human being, I guess, for lack of better terms. And I had the opportunity to attend my job's global dinner. And let me tell you this, it was one of those moments that quietly shifts something inside of you. As a Black man, I can tell you that living in 2025 is still hard, if not harder than it was 10 years ago. I don't want to make a hierarchy of people's struggle, and I definitely don't want to glorify, or I'm not looking for any kind of sympathy. But the truth is, the world is what it is. And it's just not a world that is naturally keeping people of color in the same, let me not say that. 2025 is still a time where people of color are still having to fight for a seat at the table. Let's just say that, because we know the world is guided by people who are not generally of color. And even when you get people in places of power who are of color, often they forget their roots, or that narrative is not something that they want to step into. But we're not going to get into DEI and all of that right now. Today I want to keep it positive. And I just want you to imagine this. Families all together from every corner of life gathered in one space, in one room, each bringing a dish, a food dish that represented their homeland, their culture, their place of upbringing. Authentic food that was made with love and stories and history, the smells, the laughter, the colors, the accents. It was all a living, breathing reminder that our differences are what make the world such a beautiful place. And it just, again, was a moment that it just shifted something inside of me. Now, let's be real. We live in a world where not everyone is going to reach across the table. Some folks will never bend over for you. They'll never stretch. They'll never open their hands or their hearts to someone who doesn't look, think, or believe like them, right? We know that to be true. There are people who carry wickedness, and their spirit thrives, if you will, on separation and division. And that energy, it's just always going to exist, as I kind of said at the top of the podcast here. But here's the truth that I was reminded of the night of the global dinner. Evil doesn't win. Did you hear me? Evil doesn't win. No matter how loud the noise of hate, goodness always outlasts it. And I don't want to be philosophical or Pollyanna today, because I know that life is not unicorns and roses, but I absolutely believe to my core, deep down in my heart and in my mind, that goodness always outlasts the noise of hate. Because love, genuine, pure love, has roots. And when it takes root, it automatically creates community. That's what I saw at the dinner. People from dozens of cultures, hundreds of different stories, all sharing their journey in the same room. We were literally breaking bread together. Again, this was truly a global potluck event. And not because we were forced to do it. This was people's personal time. They didn't have to come back, but because the people in that room wanted to be there. Hundreds of people together. Because unity doesn't erase differences, right? It honors it. And that, family, is the lesson. We are so much more similar than we are different. And I know people have heard that before, but I feel like somebody needs to suck that message up today. You might be feeling like you're in isolation. You might be feeling like you're on this road to nowhere. You might be feeling like you don't know who your community is at this moment. But I want to remind you, if you're surrounded by people, you are more similar to them than you are different, irregardless of what you think their history is, irregardless of what you see on the outside, irregardless of how people present. I need you to suck that message up. The people that you are surrounded with, you are more closely aligned to who they are than who they are not. Okay? So the substance of our existence, the very fabric of who we are across the world and as a human race is rooted in love and it's rooted in unity. It's the understanding that we are one global community, not divided by flags or languages, but really connected by heartbeats, laughter, food, dance even, and the shared desire of belonging somewhere. I don't care what culture you're a part of. There's this deep yearning and really basic human function to be connected to something larger than yourself. We know that creatures that operate in isolation have much shorter of a lifespan, and certainly the satisfaction that they have is much more robust and pleasing and better, if you will, when you were surrounded by at least another person consistently. And so events like this remind me that humanity is still good, that despite the noise of the world, of the nation, of the state, of your community, there are still people who choose light. And it doesn't take a miracle to make people feel good and seen and heard. It just takes intentionality. And that's what this event was tonight. It was people intentionally coming together to celebrate themselves, their culture, their background, their history, but also honoring and holding space for people who have a completely different walk. And yet there is no hierarchy of our journeys. We're here to celebrate those in unity. And they hold the same weight. They hold the same honor. One is just my lived experience, and one is just your lived experience. Again, tonight was not about who has the hardest struggle, who's had to overcome the most racism or discrimination, and who's most privileged. It wasn't about that. It was simply about unity. And so today, I guess I want to challenge you to think about this. Think about the spaces you're in, right? Are you in places that echo familiarity, or are you in places that stretch you to see the world through someone else's eyes? Because real growth happens when you're uncomfortable enough to learn. And that's what I love about the event tonight. We had an opportunity to learn about cultures, to hear from some different speakers, to literally suck in knowledge about people, places, and things that I would have absolutely no need to research or even an awareness to research, because I'm not surrounded by that culture. I'm not surrounded by the things that I was exposed to at this event on a daily basis. So you see, when you hold space for someone else's story, something that they hold true and are passionate about, you don't lose anything. You gain perspective, right? It humbles you and then it softens you. And then it reveals the part of yourself that you need healing. in, right? The biases, the assumptions, the walls. And in that reflection, you begin to see just how much beauty there is in what's unfamiliar. There's enough negativity out there. I want to say that. There's enough division. We know that. There's enough people choosing judgment over understanding. And that's unfortunate, but it's our truth and it's the truth. But you and I, we can be different today. We can be the ones who say, I see you. I may not fully understand you, but I honor where you come from. See, that's what global awareness is about. That's what emotional wellness is about. It's the act of seeing beyond yourself. So here's the part of the podcast I like to call the Wise Counselor Unfiltered. It's 3 key takeaways that I want you to hear, and big messages from my takeaways from the top of the podcast. Number 1, unity requires effort. You can't build bridges from comfort zones. Did you hear me? I said you can't build bridges from comfort zones. True unity happens when you're intentionally stepping into spaces and are surrounded by people who stretch your empathy and challenge your assumptions. Number 2, love outlasts, get this, everything. Love outlasts everything. Hate may echo loud, but love, and baby, I'm talking about real love. Real love, oh, it absolutely lingers. It changes hearts quickly. And it does that not just like fly by night. It does that with intentionality of making it permanent. Again, love outlasts everything. And number 3, the world gets brighter when you show up as light. You don't have to fix the world. Just choose to radiate goodness where you stand, right? Whether it's at the dinner table or at a work meeting or in a school or even online and your alter ego or your profile, whatever you want to call it, your energy can set the tone for healing, just like your energy can set the tone for hatred. So remember, the world gets brighter when you show up as light. And I need you to step into that full authority today. So speaking of stepping, let's go ahead and step into the reflection room. First part of the reflection room are just a couple of reflection questions I want you to think about post-podcast. Number 1, where in your life can you make space for someone different from you? Number 2, what biases or assumptions do you need to examine within yourself? Now, let me tell you this. Being introspective and being open and honest about yourself can be a painful process. It's uncomfortable because it forces you to acknowledge your weaknesses. But baby, let me ask you the question again. What biases, or assumptions do you need to examine within yourself? And then the next extension of that is, why do you think that is? And number 3, how can you use your influence, no matter how big or small, to create more inclusion in your daily spaces? See, we all have the availability to be light, just like we all have the availability to be people who can make change. Now, I'm not saying that you're going to live your life making radical legislative and worldly change. But what about making small shifts and changes in the spaces that you occupy? That may only be influencing 10 people. But if you have an ability to shape or shift or mold or move people and their perception in a positive direction with your light, then shouldn't you do it? So again, how can you use your influence to create more inclusion in your daily spaces? And the second part of the reflection room is just a little bit of professional guidance from the lens of psychology theory, counseling training, and life coaching work. In the field of counseling, we talk about cultural humility. And that's the ongoing process of learning from others without judgment or assumption. It's not about mastering diversity. It's about staying teachable. Are you staying teachable today? Because that opens up the world for you. That opens up your mind. That opens up your heart. That opens up opportunity for you to accept and love others harder, but also to accept and love yourself harder. So are you staying teachable? When you stay curious, see, you remain open to growth. That's a growth mindset. Look it up. I'm sure you can find dozens and dozens and dozens of articles about the power of having a growth mindset. You've got to remain curious and you've got to have a growth mindset. So try this week to intentionally learn something new about another culture. What do you have to lose? And that can be done through conversation, through research, through food, through art, through music, and then simply reflect on what it teaches you about you. Imagine that, looking outside of yourself to learn about yourself. It's a powerful principle. It kind of kills two birds with one stone. It helps you to elevate your understanding and your perception of those things around you that you don't have an understanding of. And then it allows you to take that further and develop an understanding of how you apply that information to you to help yourself become better. So, family, that's all I have for today. Really, it was a simple message today. It's all about unity, putting first things first, and that's holding space for people, knowing that when we do that and we let our light shine, we are pushing forward goodness, and goodness can never be stopped. And though evil may try to cast its light over the things that we're doing, it will never prevail. Love is absolutely permanent. So I want you to pause this week, and I need you to ask yourself, how can I be a bridge? How can I help the world to feel just a little smaller and a lot more kind? I want you to hear this. Remember that great things do not happen overnight. It is absolutely okay. And I would absolutely say it's required to take your time and to ease into yourself as you're navigating your existence. At the end of the day, I need you to remember this. When it's all said and done, you're the only one who's in control of your thoughts, your actions, and your, you know it, reactions to what life throws your way. Because life, oh yes, sir, life be lifing, and that's okay. As always, I need you to hear this, family. I love you. Know that I love you. And more importantly, I believe in you. And I have absolutely no doubt that whatever you are facing today, tomorrow, later this week, next month, even next year, that you have the tools and the skills and the ability to overcome. I have no doubt that you got it. So be well, and make sure you like, share, and subscribe for more motivational podcasts like this. I'm the Wise Counselor, aka known by my birth name, also Lateef. You know what I'm saying. I appreciate you joining me. Hopefully today has stretched you and gives you a little nugget to continue to think globally about how you want to show up for the people, places, and things that the universe has put into your realm and your locus of control. Be well, and have a great evening.